Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wake Up Missoula. I'm your host, Scott Ramph, here to talk to you about news, movies, summer camps, and more. We're kicking things off. We're going to dive right in. I want to keep this show fairly short because we're going to be getting some campers in within the next probably like around 9 o'clock this morning, so I'm not going to be able to do the full hour. So let's jump right in. Monkeypox. So far, more than 3,000 Americans have contracted the virus that originated from UK's ties with Africa. Part of this kind of virus is transmitted through ape-to-human contact, like pretty close contact. However, once it's made its jumps to humans, the spread has continued. San Francisco just recently, this morning on NPR, laid down a state of emergency, getting a sigh from the LGBTQ community because, according to UK research, a majority of folks who contracted monkeypox were men having sex with other men infected. The World Health Organization declared the public health emergency recently, having warned that these pox are not like chickenpox, but closer to smallpox, which was eradicated in the 80s through vaccination. Symptoms include fever, headaches, muscle aches, a lack of energy, and little spots that form on the hands and skin. Symptoms include, so far 16,000 people worldwide have contracted the virus, and the CDC said that people are 99% likely to survive. Mind you, the monkeypox ain't new in the medical world. It's been around for quite some time, so that means vaccines are plentiful and available upon need. Long-term effects of untreated and even after you get the diseases, bronchopneumonia, eye infections, some scarring resulting in blindness. So there's a lot of issues going on with that as well. So this is an ongoing thing, and it's starting to kind of make the news cycle going on in and around the media. So one big thing that's happening, actually two big things that just recently happened, is the United States passed and blocked different bills. The first one I want to talk about is probably one of the biggest ones in terms of energy conservation and climate action. And I heard this on the radio while I was on my way here, and I was like, oh, I got to mention this a little bit because this is one where the Joe Manchin, who originally voted against this during the Build Back Better, and asked that he remove any kind of climate provisions for Build Back Better to even move forward. And then they promised that they would look into this later on. And so right now they passed a $370 billion climate action. But even though he has flipped on his vote, one of the big things in terms of doing this would have to do with what was called a climate suicide pact. And part of this is because they would look to expand oil and gas leasing in areas offshore and using public lands. However, this is one of the biggest packages to date involved in climate, with the $370 billion, something that was taken out of the Build Back Better, managed to come back after disappearing. So, although it's all nice and dandy, our veterans will suffer for lack of response from the Senate, who blocked the PACT Act. So for those of you who don't know about this, heck, I didn't even know about this until just recently. For the most part, I know that they were drafting a bill to combat veterans who have been exposed to toxic burn pits and more, to kind of emphasize and kind of encompass those veterans and basically expand Medicare and just make sure that they're taken care of medically for their service that they've done. So this was to help expand care for veterans affected by toxin burn pits and other toxins and veterans were exposed to. Jon Stewart, the former Daily Show host, who advocated and got even our own Senator Jon Tester from Montana on board to draft the bipartisan bill, and was very livid at the prospect of Congress letting former services members down. Jon Stewart said in a speech at Washington, D.C., that Washington passed the budget to continue the war machine, but not those who paid their dues to this country. So far, 25 Republican senators have flipped from passing it in the Senate the first time, went back to Congress, looked pretty much the same when it came back, many of which Jon Stewart called out for supporting the troops in more public pandering ways, tweeting about it on social media, and that's pretty much it. There seems to be a lot of money meant for veterans, but not directly for them. So let's go back to Missoula. Looks like Montana is on track for yet another banger of a year in terms of tourism, money, and those looking to get out of the big city. Montana has always been a good place to get away from people in general. The story of Missoula Current stated that $380 million annually goes to Missoula through tourism, but another thing is that the story dives into the state general fund that gets a tax credit as a result of tourism, leaving about $19 million on the floor for the state to use. We're not necessarily getting not getting the money it's like the businesses in town that are really thriving and getting this stuff, but then there's additional tax that they looked into, and that tax, a lot of it goes to the state general fund and something to do with like car rentals, according to this article on the Missoula Current. You guys can look that up yourself. Destination Missoula has promoted Missoula and Montana as the place to go, and has advertised in Seattle Magazine, and hopes that the more popular Missoula becomes, the better out-of-state tax system can invest in local communities to add to the tourism and more. Okay, so up next, we got a summer camp tease for you guys once again. It is the last week of our animation camps, and without further ado, here is a live action followed by some stop animation and our final push for our horror camp that we're doing in mid-August. So there's still plenty of room. You guys can sign up your kids, and without further ado, here's the movies.
I got a plan, and it's a good one. What is it this time?
It's probably like the last plan where you just ran and grabbed the book.
But anyway, I think we should steal the most famous book in the library. What book is that popular?
I really don't know.
Little Red Riding Hood, obviously.
You got caught last time.
Someone's watching you? No one's watching me. What you guys doing? Nothing. What you doing? Just hanging out with my friends. You need better friends. Time's up. Get out. Where's the book? Over there.
I found it.
You did? Yeah! What you doing? Looks like your plan failed. Stop! I said stop! Please stop. We need a better plan. Wait, what? You had a plan?
We just met in the room, and you told me we had a plan. When we never even really had a plan.
And that was it. Good point. You better think of a plan, because we're being watched. What are you doing? I'm the distraction. You really thought your second plan was gonna work? Who said I didn't have the book? What do you mean? What did you do? I just played a smaller part.
yourself living in a toad house, and you may find yourself in another part of World 1-1, and you may find yourself behind the wheel of a large Mario Kart. You may find yourself in a beautiful castle with a beautiful princess. And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
Letting the toads go by!
Brothers plumbing underground.
Letting the toads go by!
Brothers plumbing underground.
Into the pipe socket!
Till the cords are gone.
Once in a while!
Brothers plumbing underground. And you may ask yourself, how do I beat the Mario? Mario Bad. Bye-bye.
Hey folks, welcome back. It's time for Pre-Critic, where I prejudge a series of movies based on basically no knowledge. We're kicking things off with DC League of Super Pets. So, hey, you liked Secret Life of Pets and you like the comic book movies, well, why don't you just jump in from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and his sidekick Kevin Hart tried to coast past success and some kind of curse Kevin Hart put on The Rock to put him in movies or whatever. Endless Boulder, Rock Up the Hill. Anyways, in a series of odd couple, over and over again themed movie, this time they're both dogs. And in this Illumination Company paint job to show they don't have to be in the same room in a DC animated movie, that makes you think perhaps these oddball movies do better than the actual trinity of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. This is their pets and how they exist in the fictional world with superhero pets can be a thing. Up next, we got Vengeance. Welcome to yet another mistaken identity as the ex-boyfriend is roped into a murder mystery about his ex he hasn't seen and or cares about, but her family seems to be convinced this open and shut case isn't what it seems. The ex-boyfriend is basically the worst kind of human, a podcaster, on the hunt to make fun of this family, probably because people have too much time on their hands to look at the facts at face value. Anyways, watch this movie about a guy who gets in way over his head as he looks into this crime series podcast and gets a little bit crazy along the way. All right, this next one is called 13 Lives. It's based on that true story. Remember those kids that were caught in that underground series of tunnels and underwater tunnels? So they basically had to go probably much like 4 hours to get there and then 4 hours underwater to get back. So these are underwater caves and everything like that. So it's based on a true story. But this one was about that one story about divers taking one person at a time underwater for hours to get to them safety in this very long rescue that made news about this young soccer team stuck in the system of underground caves and rivers. So that's what's going on with that. You kind of already know what happened if you just look it up on the news, and then you will get spoiled. Up next, we got a speed round, Resurrection. Just when a single successful woman has everything, her boyfriend, boo, comes back to haunt her in a realistic sense of just being around and being terrible. The Reef, another shark attack movie. This probably the fourth or sixth shark movie called The Reef, and has done with a simple ocean vacation going wrong. These women must band together to survive the shark, but probably won't do as well as the re-release of Jaws. Yes, they are planning to re-release Jaws this summer. Up next, we got Ellie and Ava. In the vein of I've never seen it that way, comes two people from two different worlds come together to get along despite their bigotry and prejudices. Anyways, watch this couple try to fall in love with each other despite past trauma. Trauma bond, anyone? Then finally, a love song. Old woman hung up on a guy, gets the guy back way later in life, but is still unhappy. Haikus are cool, right? All right, so that pretty much does it for the movies that are coming out this weekend. I don't suspect you will be able to see a lot of them. Many of them might be just going directly to streaming, but only maybe the top couple ones were definitely going to be in the theaters. So up next, we got Dubbin' Stuff featuring the movie from 1938, Barefoot Boy.
Excuse me, you can't smoke in here. And don't give me that, it's too hot outside.
Oh, well, you listen to me, young man. I have a pipe, and I'm smoking pure tobacco, none of that nicotine stuff.
What is this, some kind of dumb smoking commercial? Let's talk about something else.
But dear, he's smoking inside.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Oh, geez, I guess I'll have to get that aerosol thing that cancels out the smoke.
You mean to tell me you don't have a HEPA filter? My mechanic has a cousin who's HVAC certified.
Oh, great. Now we have to pay for a HEPA filter. Oh, I just don't know what to do.
We're not paying for a HEPA filter.
Then what do we do?
Okay, now follow me. Be very quiet.
Oh, wow, you're being really quiet, walking right in front of us.
Aw, Mom.
Well, who the heck is this kid?
Well, my name is Roger, but you can call me Barefoot Boy.
Why do they call you that?
Well, you know, nicknames come out of the blue, and, well, you know, I'm barefoot. So is this like the part where I'm supposed to apologize or something?
Oh, no, honey, you're not in trouble. We just need to talk.
Myself in particular. Perhaps you could put on some shoes.
Well, my feet get really sweaty. Come on, Roger, it's just shoes.
Do we have shoes?
Well, do I have to, please?
Good enough for me.
So you, walk around outside without shoes on?
Oh, yes, but I'm assuming you're talking to Barefoot Boy. Yeah, it was really confusing. You talked to me, but you looked at him.
Just assume everything's about you.
Like always. Why you gotta be all shoeless? Well, okay. I'll put on shoes for you, Mom. Would that do?
Well, you're not gonna put on shoes in my house.
Well, you heard my mom, Mr. Tarantino. She doesn't want me to wear shoes while I'm inside, but...
Well, you promised me feet from
Well,
this
I
boy.
guess it's buyer beware. For this, sir, I'm really, truly sorry. Does that sound good? Yeah? Huh?
Listen, I'm more disappointed in myself. You can go on ahead.
Oh, come on, let's get out of here. Oh, God, that guy's weird.
All right, now the best part of the show where I talk a little bit about City Council and what's going on within them. First and foremost, they'd had a proclamation just recently, and it was had to do with the Americans with Disabilities Act, which was established 32 years ago. And it was celebrated on Tuesday, the 26th. Was their 32nd anniversary. This is to help those misrepresented because of their shortcomings when it comes to basic care and dignity to those who suffer mental or physical limitations. And through this act would ensure future generations would have access to buildings, sidewalks, and all-around dignity to navigate their life through society. And yeah, that's what they talked about a little bit during the meeting, but we're gonna move on to other topics because they're looking to look a deeper look into the South Avenue route off Sussex. So this is a whole kind of area in which kind of like the city has been working with MCPS because MCPS had a little lot of the land and they were determining what they were gonna do with that piece of land for such a long time. And so right now they actually have a concrete plan to basically get rid of that Sussex kind of turnway as you're going down and getting access back to Brook Street. If you don't know the site that well, just kind of bear with me because this is going to give a light to a whole new city block for development in the uptown Missoula area. So this is a lot of potential happening in this particular area. And Mike Nugent, City Council, talks about that potential in this particular area.
I do want to say thank you to Blue Line Development for the creativity in coming forward with a project like this that greatly enhances the number of units that we can get in that block. I think that if people really dug into and understood what could be built there as it is split into two versus what we're going to be able to see developed, it makes a big difference. And I just think that we should acknowledge that Blue Line Development kind of put together a group that had this idea and kind of put some of the chips out on the table, and that's the sort of creativity we're going to need.
All right, and so that was Mike Nugent talking a little bit more about that. So the site in question is not only a major change to how people travel down south, but we are going to connect Stevens Avenue and adding a roundabout off of South and Stevens to help mitigate traffic. And like for somebody who's actually had to turn on to South Street, there's always that. There's always people potentially coming from one side or the other, and so it makes it almost impossible to even get to the school board meetings just from there, because that's generally the area in which MCPS holds their administrative school board meetings there. So the vacant lot owned by the school district and had no use for the site. And some summers, these triangles were surrounded the alternate path through Sussex, were also just used for fair parking. And so Heidi West City Council reflects on the intersection and sustainable prices for affordable housing that would be potentially at the new city block.
People, especially folks that are coming in from out of town during the fair, get it wrong, and I've witnessed lots of accidents, or almost accidents, at that intersection. And I think this project will redesign some really troublesome intersections if it comes to fruition. I also just briefly wanted to speak to the 35 years of affordability on those units. There isn't really, I would say, an industry standard when it comes to, I suppose, periods of affordability, because so many of them are dependent on their funding sources. So, for example, if something is funded with home or community development block grant funds, the period of affordability is dependent on the amount of money that's invested in each individual unit, and those actually top out at 20 years. So they stair step from 5, 10, 15 to a max of 20 years. Low-income housing tax credits are a little different, of course, and I think they vary slightly from state to state.
All right. So, she went on to explain that, you can keep affordable housing low to a certain degree, but there's always a lot of factors in place that adds to higher costs of rent and everything like that. And even when it comes to affordable housing, the level for affordable housing, especially for these ones, account for 80% the average area median income, which means that if you're making the average area income in Missoula, and you're making less than that, hence the 80% of that total fund. You can probably just Google it real quick. I think it's about $24,000 for the average area income for Missoula, which is pretty low for just in general according to national standards. But this was voted on, and it's going to be a $2 million project. And it's not going just for this affordable housing project, but also to improvement of the streets. And road districts are very expensive just in general, just because of cost of asphalt, concrete, and all that stuff. So there's a lot of infrastructure they're going to be building into this new area as well. So it's going to be that $2 million project. So part of the affordable housing has another aspect to it, and that is nonprofits like Homeward that works in tandem with the city to get the city to reinvest in affordable housing and letting people who are income restricted stay in their homes. So Emily Harris-Shearer, Housing and Community Development, talks about Homeward Creekside affordable housing, because just recently the city moved to purchase the Creekside Apartments, which is off East Missoula towards East Missoula and Bonner, and those are about 132 units roughly that they basically preserved for affordable housing for those people.
The project that's before you today is not requesting funding from the city of Missoula at this time, but participating in the public hearing is a requirement of the process. And so I just want to also highlight that the city's adopted housing policy, A Place to Call Home, elevates the importance of preservation and the role that the city and council can play in advocating for more tax credit investment in our region. Tax credits are an important funding resource and can be quite competitive given our state's population, which limits the total share of tax credits that we have access to.
And of course, Homeward is one of those nonprofits in town that I always refer to when it comes to people looking to buy their first homes and get into stable housing. Tax credits are a great way for organizations can offset costs, and in this case, Creekside Apartments to keep keeping on in terms of affordability and the ability to reinvest and keep these cheap apartments cheap and also up to code. Heather McMillan from Homeward talks about this site.
Creekside Apartments were built by a private developer in 1996. It's 161 homes in actually 14 different buildings with one community building located at this property. It's a mix of studio 1s, 2s, and 3s. And we were lucky enough in 2017 working with the city. The city issued a 501c3 conduit bond in which First Security Bank purchased that bond, and we were able to compete with market rate developers to hold and preserve Creekside and maintain its original affordability.
Okay, and part of this, of course, you read it, is that it accommodates people who are making 60% of the median income. Homeowner doesn't plan on selling the site and maintain it for another rent-restricted site for 4+ years. Based on it, the 60%. Okay, so that's basically what they're talking about, some reinvestments, and this is going to be a pitch on the state and federal levels for some tax breaks and incentives to help reinvest in this site as well. So as a nonprofit and also working in tandem with the city of Missoula, the public hearing was basically just a component of the application process for this tax credit. So it kind of moved fast and moved forward as well. So one of the things is that one thing is that weed business is back on track to expand starting July 2023, and the city wants to update licensing not only for new businesses, but ongoing businesses that work with the sticky icky. The wording details are: the new business license site requires the addition of new definitions, general licensing provisions, applications and insurance procedures, and license content requirements. Additionally, staff are proposing air quality mitigation requirements in order to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the community. And that last part was a big part because energy consumption is very large when it comes to operating a grow operation 24/7, 365, and basically keeping it at a warm temperature inside a fairly large warehouse type building. So Cassie Trippard with Permits and Land Use Review talks a little bit more about this.
The state's review of the draft ordinance confirmed the energy requirements for cannabis cultivation are not compliant with state law. The Montana Code annotated section 5060-102-6 requires local energy conservation standards that exceed the energy conservation standards contained in the state building code to be voluntary and incentive-based only, and I will cover this again in just a few slides.
And that seems to follow more and more about how a lot of their standards are moving in terms of trying to encourage people to mitigate their energy consumption. And so as a result, the city looked to update their language to reflect the desire of the local government on businesses moving forward, not to mention and have its own, it's not, because in terms of how Missoula kind of did, they just kind of did a business license-esque deal for these operations. But since it's so very specific, not to mention it was it's a substance that is still considered illegal on the federal level. So a lot of this is a lot of interesting ties and things about how the city wants to kind of cross the T's and dot the I's and lowercase j's and all that stuff. So they're trying to figure out the best solution and also just have something that's just like weed business permit, boom, just like that, and then have everything involved with cannabis and all that stuff within that. So Cassie also talks about zoning, which is a big part of how more businesses are going to be able to operate and start existing in this ever-growing business, especially in Missoula. There's like 60+ dispensaries. So here's Cassie once again.
Currently, cannabis business licenses fall within the general business license category. With the new zoning requirements around cannabis businesses, planning staff require additional information to be provided by each business to ensure compliance with the regulations. Though the code currently allows us to collect this information, the specific submittal requirements are not listed in the code, making it more difficult for applicants and staff to get through the process quickly. An entirely new set of requirements, application form, and licensing type is proposed to provide upfront guidance to businesses seeking a license.
All right, so there's a lot of details to this particular thing, and I'm not going to bore you with a lot of those things, but they just wanted to update it primarily to close some of those loopholes. So, when it came to legalization, many Montana legislatures were pretty much against this, and I'm just kind of referring back to the old thing because as soon as it became legalized, the Montana legislature was just like, oh wow, I guess people want to legalize weed, and so as a result, the government had to figure out exactly what they're going to do, kind of throw it together, and the delay of legalization came to about January of 2022 of this year. So overall, this is just to close some loopholes and updates in current business license in Missoula to have a cannabis business category. So, Committee of the Whole, the County of Missoula is looking to expand the mobile mental health crisis unit, but they don't have the initial funding that they got through the ARPA funds, and so they're looking into putting it into a mill levy through the county in which you, the voter, will get to vote on as well. So Dale Bickle talks about those behind the mobile crisis unit.
This request really came from a coalition of citizens and organizations, and who are here today to talk to you about continuing these efforts that Councilman Nugent talked about. And we've had a great partnership between the city and county and from our partner organizations like Hope Rescue Mission, United Way, Poverello Center, Partnership, and PHC in order to start these programs with a surge in people in crisis that happened during the pandemic. As Mike said, we are up against running out of ongoing funding to maintain these programs, and they've been critically important. So these the representatives of the coalition are here to talk about that.
All right. So throughout this meeting, they got different types of people, different folks, and Susan Hay Patrick from United Way, the one who kind of helped work with other organizations to launch the temporary safe outdoor space. Hey, if they can't go to the Poverello Center, go to the homeless shelters, and a lot of them are very weary about those kind of places and institutions, they have designated areas for camping, just a way for people to be like, hey, you can be outside, but we want you to be outside in this general area and not over here. And so as a result, that was a way for them to kind of expand upon this, but also provide direct services to those who are in these designated campsites. So here's Susan Hay Patrick.
Without public funding, we'll lose the ground we've gained over the last few years, and Missoula will go backwards. And that's not Missoula. We are a forward-thinking place with a history of working together to craft, implement, evaluate smart solutions to some of our most pressing problems. That's one of our defining characteristics as a community. We know that asking the commissioners to place this levy on the ballot and asking the voters to approve it comes at a cost. In my line of work, I see every day how stretched people are, especially our most vulnerable neighbors. But as you know, local government has very few options when it comes to generating funds for programs like those I've described. A levy is the best option we have. We know the cost, we will feel the cost ourselves, but the cost of doing nothing, of going backwards, is too great to bear. It wouldn't be smart, it wouldn't be compassionate, and it wouldn't be Missoula. So I urge you to support this resolution for the good of the community, because we all benefit when we live in a place where people are housed, are physically and mentally healthy, and have opportunity, justice, and hope.
So the mobile crisis unit isn't just about people who are suffering from a mental health crisis and need a softer touch when it comes to a lot of these emergencies, but it has to do with a bigger, wider array. And Susan Patrick was one of the many people who got that temporary safe outdoor space going. Let's see. And just to think about the budget just in general, like a lot of this money that was thrown to these programs were based on the CARES Act, ARPA funds, and money that they could be like, hey, we got some discretionary funds we can throw at certain problems. And they saw a lot of success with project, what was it called? Darn it, homeless outreach. I'm sorry, I'm just blanking on the idea, but it was a huge plan going into this last winter to connect the two temporary safe outdoor spaces, Poverello Center, and then Johnson Emergency Shelter to kind of mitigate this kind of stuff along with a lot of this crisis hotline and to expand upon it as well. And Brad Davis, the Missoula Fire Department, which the fire department is the ones that are fielding a lot of these mental health crises, along with working with Partnership Healthcare. Brad Davis talks a little bit more about the funding routes and hopefully expanding the hours of operations for folks.
We're looking at, there's some Medicaid billing funding that's in the works with the state right now. Right now we're working with the Crisis Diversion Grant. And so with the possibility of Medicaid funding for crisis response, there's some opportunities to possibly go to a 24-hour service in the future. As of right now, because we don't have some of those positions like the data analyst, we're kind of working off numbers that are based on fire and law enforcement and what we have. And I'm doing a lot of that data work along with the admin that we have with Partnership Health Center and Missoula Fire Department. So really right now it's like we're trying to build that in within our program, so we're collecting accurate data. So that would be what that data analyst would do. The outreach specialist is somebody that would help with our case facilitation. So of the 1,500 and I think it's 46 clients last time I looked that we've interacted with, every time we go on a call, that outreach specialist or case facilitator, they then make contact to make sure the continuum of care is happening. So it's just one of those important pieces as we build and our call volume increases. The behind the scenes stuff after those calls is really important. And so we'd like to build that out at some point.
Okay. And so, part of this is that they want to be able to have this 24-hour crisis line so people can call and get just basically have someone to talk to that's actually local here in the city of Missoula. So yeah, this is going to be a ballot pitch to the county commissioners to lean towards a levy, and also reminding that there is another levy for the Missoula Aging Services as well that are coming up as well. And this is compiling, and as a homeowner, I can really feel the crunch with taxes from the last year's hike. And I noticed that, honestly, like a lot of cities and communities were spoiled through the ARPA funds and everything like that. And I'm not saying the money wasn't used for a lot of good things happening in the city of Missoula, just in general, but just like as a result, now it's like the money is no longer available because this money that was meant to help people during the pandemic is now gone, because we're now in the terms of just moving forward, and a lot of people are starting to feel the crunch. So you never know. There's just a lot of stuff going on here. I don't want to choose sides. I want to just make it clear from one point of view to another is that, people are asking for more and more levies, more and more taxes, more and more things, and just things compile. Like a lot of things, there's a lot of good things happening, and there's a lot of different things, but we're gonna just have to see, and it's gonna be up to the voter up in this upcoming November election to determine whether or not these levies are good, not good. But so far, let me just talk about some of the things that this money would go towards to benefit, more than just the mobile crisis unit, but the crime victim advocacy. So they help people who are mostly victims of domestic abuse, help get the law and help get the correct kind of services to help not only the victim, but the crime, the person who committed the crime in the first place, get the mental health needed to help start building back those bridges with their families and stuff, and also more homeless shelter solutions. So a lot of this money was from ARPA, and like I said, it basically got cut off, and that's the thing about grant money. It's never a solid funding source for a lot of organizations, and that's just the way it has to do. So to find out more information about programs and more and other projects, you can go to engagemissoula.com. You can post your questions and you can get answers within a reasonable amount of time, or you can find out more information about the city council meetings. Go on to ci.missoula.mt.us. It is a wonderful website geared towards everything Missoula permitting. You can sign up, you can volunteer. It is a great portal for people looking to get involved with the city of Missoula on a administrative and political level. So just think about it. There's a lot of opportunities here, and just a lot of things that are kind of fly below the radar that most people just don't know about. And there's just a lot of boards that are always looking for people to be a part of. So if you want to contribute to the city of Missoula, this is the place to go. All right, so up next, I'm not going to throw it to a video. I want to jump right into events, because we got a lot of events that are happening this weekend as well. If you're interested in doing some things early in the morning, different kind of things, hey, there's the Red Willow Learning Center. They do a lot of events and stuff like that, and so they're doing a yoga for healthy aging. Also, they're doing a senior softball Western Region League at Playfair Park. It is part of the 2-day pool play competition as teams from all around western kind of Arizona, California, and position themselves for a chance to head to Sussex County, Delaware for the World Series. First pitch today's games at 9 a.m., 12:30 p.m., 3:30 p.m. All ages are held in Del Clausen Complex Fields 11, 12, and 13. The host, Garden City Little League, along with the Montana District 2, are looking for volunteers for various positions, including game announcers, scorekeeper, game changer, and concessions. So the tournament will continue throughout the weekend, and they'll take Monday off, and they will compete Tuesday, and a champion will be crowned to represent us in the World Series in Delaware. So let's talk about other things that are happening in the news. Hey, not in the news, but in terms of events, I can take this off now. But stroller strides, hey, if you're a mother and you have a kid and you want your kid to kind of be looked at, but also want to get outdoors and get some physical activity, Tool Park does this every Friday, and they do it various other days as well. So you can look that up at MissoulaEvents.net. Missoula Museum Public Hours, Spectrum Discovery Center here in the public library on the second floor. They're open. Their public hours are for Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to about 6 p.m. A great opportunity for kids to get hands-on on science. Also, Empowered Place is at the Missoula Food Bank. So the Missoula Food Bank is a great opportunity for people to come together and get some cheap and healthy, nutritious food for those who are not economically sustainable. I'm trying to find the right words for that, but they don't discriminate based on economic income. They allow anybody and everyone to go there. They want to create a community center surrounded by grocery and food, but also partner up with Spectrum and also the library for story times, and also healthy science-based activities to benefit the children. And speaking of benefiting the children, Tiny Tales and Storytime are happening 10:30 a.m. here at the public library on the second floor. It is a great opportunity for kids to pick up learning, enjoy some songs, and play around and just have a good time here at the library. Also here happening at the library every single day from Monday through Friday, the Missoula Food Bank and Missoula Public Library work in tandem to help promote healthy snacks and food. They give away food. It's in the art box. It's just after story time and Tiny Tales from about 11 to about 1-ish or so. It's basically anybody who's 18 and under gets free lunches from the Missoula Food Bank, and that happens all summer long, Monday through Friday. So nice, nutritious meals. Also on the fourth floor, yarns and watercolor are hosted here at the library. So if you're interested in doing some watercoloring or some yarns, you can check it out here at the Missoula Public Library. Let's see. Oh, another big thing, it's not, I've mentioned this before, but the University of Montana does shuttle rides for those who are looking to float down the river. You go to the university, go on their U-Dash, and then you can go there from basically from 12 noon to 6 p.m., which is their last shuttle. You just go up, they drive you up the river, get on the river, you float on down, and you get back in your car and you get lost, or you can ride again. But just so you know, the last shuttle is at 6 p.m. All right, we also have a Lego Club here at the library at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Let's see. Oh, MCT is doing their plays tonight as well at 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. These are kind of like the premiere shows for their summer camps they've been doing all week long, and they're going to be doing Pinocchio. Opening exhibit. If you're interested in going to the Radius Gallery, they're doing an exhibit called Watching Until the Watching Turns into Feeling. So yeah, it's basically looking at art. So the newest exhibit is to celebrate the animal kingdom. 7 artists, David Dragonfly, Stephen Godfrey, Shel Lindhold, Stella Nell, Randy O'Brien, Shannon Toxler, and Amanda Willing treat us to a wide array of cleverly conceived expressionary rendered creatures. So you guys can enjoy that tonight at the Radius Gallery starting at around 5. Let's see. Not too much going on tonight in general, but there's some, if you're interested in some rock music, the Dark Horse is hosting a band starting at 7 p.m. tonight called Blistered Earth, the Ultimate Metallica Tribute Band. Karaoke is going to be at the Jack Salon. Float Like a Buffalo with Kyle Hunter is going to be some funk rock music at Monk's Bar at 9 p.m. Then Uncle Funk is going to be at Union Club. All right, so that pretty much does it for your Saturday nights if you're going out and about and doing the Saturday thing. If you're interested in doing some Saturday stuff, you got to understand that farmers markets are pretty popular in Missoula. If you haven't already noticed by the large crowds of people that come every Saturday in the morning from about 8 a.m. to about 1 p.m. Great opportunities over by the Carousel, by the Thomas Marr Bar, and then of course by the Red X's, which is the OG market in Missoula. So foraging with wild food and medicine. So this is part of the Green Path School and surrounding area. So if you want to learn about municipal herbs and foraging some wild foliage, and starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, it's going to be at the Green Paths Herb School and surrounding locations. This is at 180 South 3rd Street, West Missoula. And so this join herbalist Elaine Sheff for a day-long foraging class. They'll be starting with the ethics, recommended tools, and how-to for harvesting wild plants. So some cool stuff going on there as well. You can look up more information, of course, by MissoulaEvents.net. Let's see. What else is going on here? D&D for teens. Hey, if you're a teenager and you lost your D&D group or you're feeling the little itch, the Missoula Public Library does the D&D for teens at 3 in the afternoon every Saturday at the public library. So John Floridas and Jennifer Sladen is going to be at Imagination Brewing Company. They are a couple local music bands playing some folk music at Imagination Brewing Company at 6 p.m. Andrew Harcel is going to be at Draftworks Brewing Company at 6 p.m. Pesky Varmints live at the Ten Spoon Winery Vineyard is going to be at, you guessed it, Ten Spoon Winery at 7 p.m. And then Mark Dubas and Crossroads are going to be at country music at the Jack Salon. Milonga, Argentina Tango Social Dance for beginners and more is going to be at Westside Theater. If you want to do some dancing, get some exercise, starting at 8 p.m. Westside Theater. Then, of course, there's the Head Start School. They're going to be hosting a movie on the North Side once again, a continuation of their ongoing North Side movie series. And I believe, what is the date? The 30th which is going to have Shrek. So if you like Shrek, they're going to be showing Shrek on the side of the Head Start School on the north side. You can't miss it. It's at Head Start School, and it is always a fun experience. And they do not turn you away if you cannot. It's all donation based, so you can donate to get in, but you do have to pay for snacks. All right, so that pretty much does it for a lot of those events happening. You got some karaoke at West Side Lanes, and you got Union Club with some miscellaneous music from Jackson Holt. Chris Moon is going to be there every Saturday at the Badlander doing some DJ music, so you get to enjoy all that and more. So I'm going to look through Sunday briefly. There's not really much to do on Sundays. I don't know, they have a River Pines Horse Sanctuary River Float fundraiser, and this is come hang out with the River Pines Horse Sanctuary July 31st. They'll be floating from the River McClay Bridge to the private beach. Afterwards, join the group, the River Pines Horse Sanctuary crew for a cookout. All proceeds go directly to the care of rescue horses that call this place their home. So some fun things there. It's going to start at 1 p.m. It's going to be at McClay Bridge. So that's that crazy bridge that's just as you're going to Blue Mountain on the western part of Missoula past Target Range. So yeah, you'll have to definitely look this up if you're going to try to find out where it's going to go. So it's, yeah, enjoy all that stuff and more. There's a bunch of events that are happening here in town. I got a summer camp to do today, so I'm going to end it right here. And for Wake Up Missoula, I'm Scott Ramph.